We expect to have a decent supply of fresh turkeys. Now the problem that we run into is sizes, so we maybe have a limited number of sizes, but we should have something right up to the day.
You are
so
the safety net.
We are. So if all of a sudden you know it all gets thrown on you and you got to have something, come see us. We'll take care of you. And since our turkeys are fresh, never frozen, you don't have to worry about a chunk, a rock like a bowling ball, and trying to get it thawed out and trying to get everything done. And our turkeys are super high quality. They're from the brand name is kind of a little bit problematic. It's called Premium Specialty. You know, that's not something that really rings, but they are from Thief River Falls, Minnesota. And strangely enough, that area of Minnesota is turkey country, and they feed them corn. Corn is a lot of what goes into their diet. And so unlike turkeys that say maybe come from Arkansas or from the Carolinas, their diet is a little bit different. And so we think that makes a significant difference in the outcome of the ultimate product that, you know, grandma or mom's pulling out of the oven. Yeah, what we do is cook, and in fact I had some the other day. I had some that I took out of the smoker. They weren't making as much progress as I wanted. So I said, well, they've got their smoke on them. I'm going to take them out and put them in the oven. So I put them in the oven with a thermometer in the breast. And you know, there's just no way to emphasize too strongly how important it is to temp the breast. And you know, it's the easiest part, and it's the part that you don't want to ruin. It's so common for people to cook the breast to 180 degrees, like it used to say in Joy of Cooking, and it's ruined. It's ruined. It is going to be so dry. We try to cook ours to about 170, and of course, if we're selling them commercially, we have to make sure that we're following rules of food safety. So temp the breast, rub it with some kind of oil that's going to help it brown, and just give yourself plenty of time, because the turkey can sit a long time.
Yes.
It can. It'll sit there for a while and still stay warm. But if you got people with knives and forks in their hands waiting on a turkey to get done, and you've cranked your oven up to 450, you're probably not going to have success. So we like to take a good deal of time. You know, I think what people think of when they think of a well done turkey, the skin is nice and brown, maybe a little crackly or crunchy. That can all happen even at lower temperatures. But again, and I think we both agree on that, use a meat thermometer. A lot of the packaging on a turkey will say to cook at 375, I mean very high, I consider that a high temperature. I will prefer, say, 325 or something around there. Get it to where you want it to be slowly. It gives you more control. It doesn't get past where you want it to be. If you go off to have a martini with kinfolk, and you come back and it's way past where you want it to be, then you know that can be tantamount to disaster.
A little at the end if you want to.
Exactly right. Or turn on, if you're cooking in an electric, turn on the broiler. And so there are a lot of. It's just so critical not to overcook it. In my experience, doing this, you know, since I was a kid, I think a whole turkey is the hardest thing in the world to get just right. You know, we were talking about how you cut it to pieces. You know, if you're not so concerned about bringing a whole turkey to the table and putting it down and having it look beautiful, if you just want to say maybe slice it off onto a platter and serve it already sliced, then you're going to be able to use what I think is a fairly effective technique. Cook the breast separately, cook the legs separately, the back, who cares about the back? But you know, when the breast is done, take it out. When the legs are done, take them out for the people those few people that like dark meat. And I think that's a pretty good technique as well.
Thanksgiving will soon be past us, but that doesn't mean we can't start thinking about our holiday feast.
And believe me, Dave, we've had people, they call before Thanksgiving and they want to talk about Christmas, and we go, please just let us get through Thanksgiving, then we'll talk about Christmas. And what we're looking at for Christmas is, and we've seen this going on for a couple of years, beef prices have stayed steady and they've stayed high. So expect, if you want to serve beef, to, I mean, I hate to say it like this, just spend a lot of money. But it's critical, I think, to get a quality piece of meat, get something that you know you can handle. I think it might be a mistake to say, I'm going to jump off into a standing rib roast, and you've never done one before, although it's really not that hard. What we've found is that it's really it's easier to do the expensive cuts of meat, because all you do is put them in an oven with a thermometer in it, and when it says it's done, it's done. Right. But at the same time, if you're not sure of what your techniques are going to be, right, or if you're not confident, you might want to try something else. There are all kinds of things as alternatives, pork roasts, and then you know, I hate to go back to turkey, but if you didn't have turkey for Thanksgiving at your house, cook a turkey breast alone. And we have plenty of those here. We bone a turkey breast and basically make it into a turkey roast. So if you want to do that, that's very simple to do with the meat thermometer. Always the meat thermometer.
Make sure you have one in your stocking if you don't.
Right.
If you don't have one
and then there's a variety of those, and maybe we could take a minute to talk about those. You've probably seen the really cool chef guys with a little tiny instant read stuck in their pocket on their coat. Those are good, but you have to open the oven every time to temp it, and so that can kind of throw off your cooking times. Then there's the old-fashioned kind. That's a big dial, and you stick it in there, and it's oven-proof. And those aren't bad. They can be a little inaccurate, especially if they've been dropped or if they're old. Some of the newer technologies is like a digital unit that stays outside the oven. A heat-proof cord with the probe on it goes into the oven. And those are idiot-proof, really. And that's what I use. I use them here when I smoke turkeys. I've used them at home to cook big pieces of meat. And you know, it's you really need. And then when we start to talk about, let's say you find a thermometer that you're comfortable with, then you start to talk about what do I want and how much of it do I need? Right, and then you just need to come see me or talk to someone who,
Yeah, because you don't want to make the mistake that one size fits all when you're doing this.
Definitely not. Yeah. And you know, you'll get different answers from everybody. We used to say, if we're going to sell somebody a boneless ribeye roll, is what we call it. So it's essentially a bunch of ribeyes still stuck together that haven't been cut yet. And you say, well, how much do I need? Well, we used to say, and this is something that I just got from my dad or grandpa, I can't remember, well, 8 ounces per person. Well, you know, an 8-ounce slice of meat really isn't that much if you think about how big that is. And if you have big eaters, you might want to think about maybe 10 to 12 ounces per person. And that's uncooked weight. And then if you start talking about tenderloin, well, then maybe 8 ounces per person is more reasonable. Very easy to figure. So we say, well, I've got 10 people, how much tenderloin do I need? Well, how about 5 pounds? And sometimes they'll eat it all and sometimes they won't. Here's what we've got. We sort of over a period of years have developed a fairly complete line of traditional Thanksgiving sides ready to eat. And so you can get, we do cornbread stuffing. We do the traditional green beans with the French fried onions on top. We do sweet potatoes, we do mashed potatoes, and then we have a whole array of desserts. We have worked pretty hard in about the past, say, 3 months to make a really acceptable cobbler. Now, cobbler, you think of it as like kind of a lowercase pie, but who cares? If it's warm and it's got ice cream on it, I don't care what you call it. So it's, we have several different kinds of that, so if you want to come in and get a quick dessert for a few people, just to say you brought something, there you go. But if you want to do a whole meal, we can do that. If you want to just pick up, say, I need to bring some cornbread dressing to Grandma's house, we can do that. And I've got some fabulous people in the kitchen who are going to work their tails off getting all that ready over the weekend. And so that's another thing that we do. We don't freeze any of this. We make it fresh so that when you come get it, you know it's going to taste just like it should. And it's difficult and it is expensive because it takes a lot of manpower, takes a lot of labor to get it done like that, but we just don't want to do it any other way. I mean, we are quality, quality, quality. And if we put out something mediocre and we're told that it's mediocre, that's gone. I am so fortunate because I've got these two guys right here who worked their entire lives to build a reputation that goes with, just happens to go with my last name. You know, I picked up some skills along the way, but when we first opened, the beauty of it was that hang up a shingle, people already know who you are, and they associate your name with quality, service, friendliness. We'll call you by your first name once we find out what it is. And so that was my advantage, really. I mean, no startup has an advantage like that. And you know, that's almost 100 years of benefit to me. So all I've done, I mean, I ride their coattails to some extent, but at the same time, because I admit I have a considerable array of skills that I've developed over a period of years. But it's really them. It's really them. And you know, 105 years is a long time. And I thank them for, you know, making all this possible. Unfortunately, I do not have at this point that I know of an heir who wants to come in here and do what I do. I have a daughter, and she doesn't really seem to have expressed any great interest in it yet, but that might change.
Never know.
We never know. So we're just going to keep doing this the best we can. Another thing we have done, and I think this is to our credit, is we've tried new things. We didn't say, okay, Grandpa had a formula, let's just stick with that. What we've seen over the past, especially 14 years since we've been here, is that people's tastes have changed. Younger people don't want liver. Younger people don't want South loaf. Younger people, they don't even know what it is. There's really a lot of different kinds of things that have fallen out of favor. One thing, I talked to a lady about this for 30 minutes. A cross-cut beef shank. They're good. You know, if you cook them right, they've got a tremendous flavor, a lot of gelatin, a lot of collagen. Nobody knows about it. Now, if they've read a magazine, what they want is a 2-inch piece of cleaned beef femur. We can do that too. But if I buy a 60-pound case of beef shank, that's going nowhere. I'm going to sell 2 pounds, and the rest of it we have to grind.
Well, man, we appreciate you taking some time.
My pleasure.
Thanks,
My
man.
pleasure, Dave. My pleasure.
Best of luck and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much, and to everybody and yours.